The trial of Sacco and Vanzetti. Nicola Sacco was born in Torremaggiore in around 1881. His family lived in the poor southern part of Italy. As a young child, like many others of the region, he disliked school and preferred handiwork instead. At the age of 17, he decided to go to America with his brother Sabino. They settled in Milford, Massachusetts, where Sacco found a job as a shoemaker. In 1912, he met Rosa. They got married and had 2 children. Bartolomeo Vanzetti was born in 1888 in Villa Falletto. He dreamed of having a well-to-do common job, but his father had other plans for him. So, he decided, when his mother died in 1908, to left for New York. For 6 years, he maintained himself with a job, and it was very hard. But finally, Vanzetti settled with a new group in Plymouth, Massachusetts, as a fish peddler. Sacco and Vanzetti joined the radical anarchist group of Luigi Galleani. The group was rising and growing stronger. And although the two were in the group, they didn't know each other until all the followers left for Mexico to avoid the First World War draft in 1917. When they came back, they remained friends. When Sacco and Vanzetti left Italy, they already had a radical view of government, but when they joined Galleani's followers in Massachusetts, they truly turned to anarchy. Like many immigrants, they dreamed of a new world, a fresh start. And they both thought that the great world was only something that the nation should avoid, and like many, were against the draft of the army. What happened on April 15, 1920? At 3 p.m. in the afternoon, a paymaster and guard were carrying a lot of money in the south of Braintree, Massachusetts. They were shot and robbed by 2 men, who then left in a car with 4 or 5 other people. On May 5, 1920, Sacco and Vanzetti were both arrested for this crime. When they were arrested, the police found in Sacco's pocket a handbill for an anarchist meeting where Vanzetti was listed as the main speaker. When interrogated, the police focused more on Sacco and Vanzetti's radical activities than in the Braintree crime. Sacco and Vanzetti were anarchists and participated in labor strikes, political agitation, and anti-war propaganda. Sacco and Vanzetti lawyer, Mr. Moore, decided that in order to defend them, because they had a previous criminal record at all, they would like to defend and they would like to prove that the prosecution was trying to convict Sacco and Vanzetti in an effort to suppress the Italian anarchist movement. This conspiracy was the reason why this trial became so popular. But what was the evidence? First, 7 witnesses placed Sacco near Braintree around the time of the crime, but the witnesses couldn't make a positive identification. Second, ballistics expert testified that the bullet tree was consistent with being fired through Sacco's pistol, but 2 defense experts testified that the bullet tree couldn't have been fired from Sacco's coat. Third, a hat was found at the crime scene and the witnesses said it belonged to Sacco, but Sacco denies owning the hat, and it can be proved that it does. Fourth, Sacco wasn't at his job the day of the murder. In fact, he was in Boston getting a passport. Then he went to Bonnie's restaurant, and 7 witnesses saw him there. Fifth, 4 witnesses saw Vanzetti's in Braintree, but no one saw him there during the shooting. And last, Vanzetti's gun was of some kind owned by the paymaster, but Vanzetti said he bought it from a friend months ago. Anyway, on July 14, 1921, a jury found Sacco and Vanzetti guilty of robbery and murder, and Up until 1927, the defense made many appeals to save Sacco and Vanzetti, and during this time there was a confession. In fact, a lot of evidence was found that suggests that the Morelli gang was involved in the brain-drain crime. But the appeals and the new evidence had no effect, and in fact, on April 9, 1927, Sacco and Vanzetti were sentenced to death. They were executed on August 23, 1927. Were Sacco and Vanzetti prosecuted and convicted because they were Italian immigrants and anarchists, or did they really commit the crime? That was the question. What happened after? People were outraged by this. Many of the famous were even appalled by the trial, like, for example, the President Scott Fitzgerald or Einstein. Others felt outraged, like, for example, radicals, workers, other immigrants, Italians, of course. Other immigrants were afraid of the same fate as Sacco and Vanzetti. They thought that, if it could happen to Italians, it could happen to anyone. Likely, on August 23, 1977, 50 years later, the governor of Massachusetts issued a proclamation absolving the two men of the crime. The conflict was finally brought to an end. But was it a real justice? Were these two immigrants brought to justice in the end? Or were their lives taken with injustice and in vain? We can also conclude that their lives were taken simply because they were Italian immigrants that possessed firearms for self-protection and had different political views.